Next up, we have our How It's Made session with Paula Johnson Hutchinson, owner of Second to None Hair Salon and the Stiletto Talks.
Welcome again to the NRF Foundation and Walker's Legacy Be An Innovator Retail Digital Summit. Again, my name is Paula Johnson Hutchinson, and I have the pleasure of the How It's Made panel. So, of course, today we have Tara Darnley with Darling and Company. We have Marcel Benson with Benson Watch Company. And we also have Margaret Barrow with It's NOLA. So without further ado, we want to get started. So product development is essential for the survival of all companies, regardless of industry. And during this session, you're going to learn join expert product developers from all over the country for an inside look at the best practices for selecting, producing, and marketing your products. So first question is for Tara. So are you there, Tara?
I'm here.
Hi, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
So first question, what made you decide to create a Black-owned kids registry?
So hi everyone, my name is Tara Darnley, founder of Darling & Co. We have a children's brand for over 6 years, and around this time last year, the need apparently for just a Black-owned kids brand, it grew. I guess people were like, oh, let's shop with Black-owned businesses. And so we wanted to curate the experience for our customers to be able to shop kids product all in one place. And that's honestly where the idea came from. And we kind of ran with it. We didn't realize how it would take off. And we already had developed over 100 products. So we started with our products. And so we're looking to host other small Black-owned businesses in the kids industry. So that's how we started.
Wow, what an amazing way to start and expand a business. That is absolutely awesome. And so to that, I want to ask you, what differentiates your business from other competing companies?
Diversity. We have diverse founders, we have diverse team members, and so we're able to really develop products that we know the market needs. We know kids needs. Kids don't see themselves in a lot of products. One of our most popular products to date is our affirmation flashcards, and that really started from me seeing kids commit suicide, something as harsh as that, and we don't think about it, have those conversations in our home. And my daughter coming to me saying, Mom, I'm sick of watching YouTube or TV and I don't see myself represented. And as founders and creators and inventors, like, we have the power to create. And so that's really what, struck the nerve to just keep creating diverse products. And I think that's what really, makes us stand apart from our competitors, where in it, we have kids that are Black and, our customers are very diverse, but we are able to make products from real needs.
I think it's just so amazing that you brought up diversity. And sometimes we think about diversity, but for some reason, people don't always think about minorities creating diverse products. Howbeit ever, it is just great to see that you have been inclusive of diversity from the beginning. And like you said, those are the things that really set you apart, from that being the core of your products from the beginning, and not having to incorporate it later on the back end. I think that's really important, especially with top of mind awareness. I have my nephew this year. He's 10 and my youngest child is 23. So this is very different for me. And so one of the things that we saw early on was that him struggling to identify with his culture, and with ultimately being a young Black boy in 2020. So it's great to see that you are actually pushing the narrative forward and actually addressing the need, and including that in your brand model, because sometimes people are kind of scared to put that out there in their brand model. So thank you so much for putting that out there from the beginning. And so for people like me who are looking for products for my nephew, we certainly appreciate it. But you talked about difference of products and diversity. And to that, we have Marcel. Now, Marcel, watches. Definitely don't always think of minorities dealing with watches and time. We have all of these brands. And so top of mind awareness may not necessarily come to us, but you are doing it and doing it big. And I went on your website and I love watches. So I am definitely a fan. So a watch business is so different. So what made you decide to create Benson Watch?
Paula, I was a fan of watches ever since like 7 years old, right? It was 7 years old that I received my first Kenneth Cole watch from my parents. It was a square watch with a black dial. And from there, that kind of like, influenced my my love for watches. I probably collected about 100 pieces between the ages of 7 and 25. So I went to school. I went to college like many people do. I was, following the trajectory of like a career. I went to Morehouse College, graduated. Most of my buddies were going to work on Wall Street, work in consulting. I went off to work in consulting, and I thought I had it made. Like I had a good job. I had a nice little car. I'm traveling around the world. I'm thinking that this is it. And then I realized that, I still wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy with my life, and I couldn't understand why. So after some self-reflection and really getting in tune with myself, I understood that it was because I wasn't spending my time doing what I love. And then when I started to think about what was something that was present in my life consistently, something that I would do for free, it was definitely the watches. So I was like, how can I leverage this? How can I make this a business to not only profit from, but to also impact others? So I came up with the slogan that time should be spent with doing what you love, which is essentially a metaphor, and the watches just serve as a conduit to drive that message to the masses.
Wow, what an amazing brand story. I certainly connect with that, and that, you want to do what you love and do it. What would you do for free? I think was just something that you really talked about. And then ultimately making an impact, which is also what Tara talked about, just impact. How do you actually put that out there? So definitely thank you for sharing that. Now, I do want to know this, and this was actually one of the questions that was presented, and I'm glad they have it on here because I want to know too. Do you design watches for yourself? And if you do, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. I do do the designs. When I decided that I was going to start this watch company, I was sitting around the table with some friends, and I remember just blurting out that I wanted to start a watch company. At the time, I didn't know exactly how. Nobody really, took it serious. But immediately I started to just gather materials. Like I went and got a sketchbook from Michael's. I got some color pencils and just started playing around. And if I showed you the first renderings, you would laugh because they were terrible. But over time, I kind of got into a flow and literally taught myself, because I'm not an artist by nature, but taught myself how to do the sketches. And then understanding exactly the nuances that I wanted in the watches, the sketch along with those being submitted to the to the manufacturer is how we would come up with the renderings, which would be like the 2D and 3D photos that people would see when when we were pre-selling watches in the earlier phase.
Wow. I like the fact that you just kept it old school and struck
Yeah.
out and to Michael's and started sketching. Started sketch. And I think people think about this big grandeur of illusion, that people think that those of us who are innovators, those of us that choose to create and forge our own path, like we just had, all of this funding and all of this stuff behind us. But a lot of times what's driving it the most is passion. Just that idea of it's something that we love. It's something that keeps us awake at night. And like you said, your first renderings were like, but you kept it going. So I certainly love that. And then of course we have Margaret. Hey, Margaret.
Hi.
So pretty. Hey. And so I want to ask you this question. What made you start a healthy snack business?
My students. I am a college professor, and what I like to do is to bring snacks to class for my students. And I'm also a vegan. And so my students, I had to convince them to eat healthy, to put away the McDonald's and some of the other junk food. And I asked them if they would try my snacks. And they said, well, doesn't vegan food taste like sawdust? And I said, well, that was the 70s. So I said, 21st century, very different. So I brought them some snacks like luscious cranberry coconut, sassy mango masala, and they tried it and they really loved it. And so every single day they were asking me for more. They followed me around the college, asking me if I would give them bags of it. And finally I started bringing them those big gallon bags, and they were taking them and sharing them with their family and friends. And my husband was going crazy. He was like, what are you doing? But I just kept giving it to them. And then a group of them I had been mentoring came to me and said, Professor, we really think that you should start a business. And I said, no, my life is full. I love teaching. I love doing what I'm doing. And so they were quiet for a while. And then a couple of months later, they came back. But this time they came with piles of surveys that they had taken across New York City at different colleges and in New Jersey. And they put them on my desk and they said, you always told us if you're going to have a great argument, you have to have proof. Here's your proof. We think you should start a business. And so it really touched me. And I read through all of those surveys, and I was just shocked at what the students were saying and how much they liked it. And they would buy it in stores. And so eventually it took me a little while, but then I said, well, why would I change the life that I have right now being a college professor? I'm very happy. And I had to think about that big why. And as I thought about it, I kept thinking, what are the things that I could do for my students? How could I improve their lives? Being a mentor is one thing, but how could I improve their lives and other students that I hadn't touched? So I went to a business lawyer and said, well, is it possible for me to start a business, but also give money to students in the mentoring? I want to focus on supporting community college mentoring programs. And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, that's my big why. So that's why I went into this, because I believe in healthy eating. And I think our community needs to eat healthier. And I also believe in students. I mean, some of the community college students are some of the smartest people I know, and they deserve to have great mentoring.
Wow, absolutely amazing brand stories. You all have like the best stories, and I think that's what we ultimately look for as consumers when we are connecting. We want to connect to those stories, and you basically had your own focus group right there with you, and they took charge. So that's great. But what I do love about all three of you is that you took what you love, you thought about it, and your why still outweighed the why nots. And I think that's also really important. Now, Margaret, because of course you sound just, this is such an appropriate question. It's funny that they have this on here. Describe your typical day a week in your position. And of course you shared us, how you transitioned over into the healthy snack world. How is your week? Like, describe a typical week for you. And I think this is really important for our viewers to understand. This is what entrepreneur life looks like.
Yes.
So share with us, what does it look like for you, a typical week?
Okay, so I'm walking two paths right now, like a lot of entrepreneurs. So I'm still a college professor. I still teach my courses. And so a typical day is getting up at 5 in the morning, having my coffee, taking the dogs out, and then teaching my class and speaking to my students. And then right after that class, I am reaching out to customers and clients. I'm reaching out to our team. We send out, each of us is responsible for sending out an accountability list in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so that tells everyone else what they're going to be doing. It keeps us all accountable. And during the afternoon, I have another 2 classes to teach. So I'm teaching those classes. And then right after that, I am either in a boot camp for sales. I'm always looking for ways to learn more things. I'm also looking, or I'm a part of another panel, either as a college professor or as an entrepreneur. So the day is very busy. By the evening, I'm usually cooking dinner with my husband. He gets a little bit of time, trying to give him a little more, but being an entrepreneur and college professor, there's not a lot of time in the day. And then by the end of the night, it's really reaching back out to the team and talking about, well, what were we able to accomplish for the day, and to say goodnight to everyone.
Wow. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because many people, of course, especially since the pandemic, there has certainly been an increase in what else can I do to earn extra income, or is this really my chance to put my entrepreneurial test out there? And a lot of time it's just a hypothesis. You know, it starts out just as a simple hypothesis. We don't know how it's going to work, how it's going to turn out. But I want to definitely flow into asking you all these questions. So for Tara, what is the first step new entrepreneurs should take when it comes to product development? Because in your case, you saw a need, a void, and all of you saw a void. And so to that, just want to find out from you all, you know, what should new entrepreneurs take as far as steps when it comes to product development?
That's a great question. And I love how Margaret's story intertwined, where she literally had a case study done for her. I would definitely say test the market first. Obviously, a lot of us want to protect our idea, but there are ways to test the market, whether that's something already on the market. A lot of the times we have super cool ideas and we're like, nobody else has it. I guarantee somebody else has something similar. So at least test the concept or the category or something to give you some type of data. A lot of the times we see people waste money on just like started, and then it's like, then they backtrack and start like figuring out if there's actually a market. So test the market first in terms of looking at what's out there already. How can you compete? Looking at pricing. Pricing is so important. A lot of the times, again, we make these crazy investment, and then it's like, oh, no one's going to buy this product for $500 because everybody else sells it for $5. And because we're minorities, like you mentioned, we're not starting off with our uncles like funding or anything. We're starting out, most of us, with our life savings. And so you definitely want to check the pricing on the market, make sure you're going to be able to at least buy your first inventory. So that's why I'm very intrigued with like Margaret's story. Like she had it all done for her. For me, what I did was I went to social media. I didn't give like all of my information away, but my audience was moms. When I first, my first invention, it was moms. And so I went to social media. I had my daughter use a prototype, and it kind of took off from there. It proved the concept. It proved I wasn't the only crazy parent out here going through a teething issue. So definitely try to get as much data as possible from the market. And also at the same time, protect your idea. And I know that's hard to do, but protect your concept. Don't tell everybody. Tell who needs to know. So yeah.
That is really a great piece of advice, protecting your idea. I see a lot of it now on social media with idea sharing. I see them in different platforms and spaces where they're just blurbing out all of their ideas, some of them very proprietary, and then all of a sudden, there may be someone that may be further up the road and you giving them this piece and they're off and gone with it. And it may be even more difficult for them to actually introduce something. Now you have to go back and find another void to put out there. So to Marcel, I want to ask you the same question, because again, you are in a market where we just don't always think about a minority space, but we are literally everywhere. And I think that's so important about innovation. We're everywhere. There's probably not a space out there that we are not in. So to that, product development, in your case, like you said, it started out with some sketches that were kind of hustling, for lack of a better word. So, you know, how did you move forward past that, and especially in your product development phase when you're starting with just ideas in your head?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to immerse yourself not only in your industry but also entrepreneurial communities. When you start off on this journey, there's like, you know, you have no clue like how to get to the end. I think surrounding yourself by individuals who are on similar journeys and people who have already traveled, you know, some of those journeys definitely helps. So a lot of the knowledge that I got about how to get started, even you know, finding my manufacturer, came from jumping in chat rooms on watch blogs. My first manufacturer was actually recommended directly to me, you know, from a person who had a watch company in Australia called the Orange Watch Company. We were in a chat. You know, I was, like I said, I was on every watch blog. I was in anything that I could get my hands on. I was in there and just kind of following some of the conversations. And then you know, we started talking, and then he said, you know, I was asking questions about how to get started. And then he just literally just gave me, he said, hey, this is the guy that makes my watches. I see that you're doing, quite a bit to try to get started. Give him a call. And that's how I found my, my first manufacturer. So I think, surrounding yourself with people who have a little more knowledge than you, definitely is a great first start.
Great advice. It's kind of the same way I was with my businesses. Of course, starting in the beauty industry, people give you their true opinion in the hair salon. So a lot of my focus group also came from the people that were around me all the time. I got to see them in their natural environments. And that's a place where all things are on the table in the hair salon, and people would actually tell me what they wanted to see and what they didn't want to see. And so that helped me in product development, much like you all, and especially Margaret, especially with them doing the work kind of for me. And I just came out and like, they kind of pushed me like, yeah, it's time for you to do this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so kind of the same thing. So Margaret, of course, I know you had a lot of people we got a great question. I'm going to make sure that I bring that up too from someone, but I want to find out from you, Margaret, what piece of advice do you wish you were given at the start of your career when it comes to product development? Because of course, while you had those surveys, I'm sure there may have been some obstacles there, some trial and error. So what piece of advice would you give them at the start?
I think that the most important advice I think that would have been helpful is to understand that you can walk into an environment and think you know who your core target audience is or consumer, and then you find out that is definitely not who is buying your product. So I went into this thinking, oh, it's a vegan product, vegans will eat it. And 75% of the people who actually eat our product and purchase it are not vegan. So it's like really understanding that you really need to work at digging into data. And so data becomes really important. These are real people. They're not just numbers. They're really real people, and they then help you to market. So I think that if someone had said to me, listen, you need to be open, you need to find out who is interested in purchasing your product and just give it time, not to push right into something and think, well, those are the people I want to sell to. It just doesn't work like that.
That's great that all of you keep bringing up data. And I know that sometimes we tend to be very impulsive because most of us are creators. And so to that, I think, like you all said, making sure that you're in the right communities, having these conversations, troubleshooting, idea sharing, like the what ifs and just the data part, because you have to be able to explain something or know your market. And sometimes, again, it's just a hypothesis. Like you said, you thought it was going to be vegans, but then the majority of them are not vegans as far as your target market, and that's who really gears towards your product. So I think it's great that you brought that up. Now, Marcel, there was a question that popped up, so I'm gonna let you take this one first, and then I want to follow up with Tara and Margaret. Sure. People want to know, like, where do you find these communities? So of course, everybody wants to know, like, hey, I know that I want to do a business, but there's no one that I can really talk to. My cousin doesn't understand. My spouse doesn't understand. I've talked to my best friend. They're discouraging me. They're making fun of my idea. And you actually brought up how people were like, what? So to that, of course, you had to kind of find a community of people that you can idea share and kind of bounce some things off. So where did you first go to seek out those communities? And then I want to follow up with Tara and Margaret with the same question.
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to say, to anybody who's watching, like, definitely, I don't want anyone to feel like their idea is not valid if the people that are in their immediate space right now are not, too fond of it or even understand like the vision. So definitely don't get distracted by the people who are currently around you. You have the ability to change your environment and get around, different people who have your best interest at heart, and not just your best interest at heart, but actually have the information that you need to go to the next level. For me, it kind of happened organically. I was definitely, on Facebook, just kind of like documenting my journey. Tara can probably vouch, like we've been connected, for quite some time, and I'm pretty sure she's like seen like some of the changes that have taken place. And we are also in a similar community, or the same community, a same business community, our organization called Traffic Sales and Profit, or TSP, which definitely contributed quite a bit to both of our success, and just understanding the tech side of of business, like understanding your funnels and ads and how all of those things work together to really drive traffic, sales, and profit to your company. So I think really seeking those out, like if there's somebody that you admire on social media, find a way that doesn't necessarily waste their time to reach out and connect, like have what you want to say together, have what you need from them together, and try to add some sort of value in some way to that person. Search for groups. Like you can literally get on Facebook and search groups. You can get on Google and search groups, and it's a lot. I'm not gonna say it's a lot easier now, but obviously networking is a little different because of the pandemic. But we do have more time now. There are more people online talking. Like Clubhouse is a great platform. There are a ton of people that are out there doing exactly what you want to do and have the answers to all the questions that you have. You just have to take some time to go seek them.
Great advice. Tara, say question.
Sure. So I love what Marcel said. And there's two communities, right? So if you need community to help you grow, you're going to want to look at different entrepreneur space. I would say be careful with those two, because there's so much information, and sometimes it consumes you, especially if you're just starting out and you're like, wait, what should I do? Should I do it like Marcel? And Marcel's strategy could be totally different than mine, and vice versa. But it's also good to be able to have those, like Marcel said, those type of communities to be able to say, hey, did you do this? Did you make this mistake? I also say when it comes to finding your customer in terms of community, they're everywhere. Kind of like what Margaret said, sometimes you think your customers are going to be shopping at Walmart, and in fact, your customers only shop at Target. So you have to find them. So for me, it was Instagram at the time. Instagram was fairly new, but every mom was on Instagram because they had nothing better to do. They were on Instagram posting their pictures. There's nothing more important for a new mom than posting her pictures of her kid. And so that's where they were. They were posting their pictures like 5, 10, 20 times a day. And there I was liking every single pictures. So talk about the hustling days. I was liking every pictures. I was commenting on every pictures. I was in every mom blog group there was. And I was finding my perfect customer. And so by the time it was time to sell or have something to sell, I've already built that connection with them because I was a mom as well. And so don't be afraid to I know for the introverts, it's going to be hard, but you really need to start making yourself be seen, whether it's you showing up, supporting, liking. You don't even have to talk. Kind of like what Marcel said about even like a new platform like Clubhouse. Go in there, listen, try connecting with people by going to their profiles, liking their pictures, and just simple things like that. People will start to see you. So it may seem overwhelming now, but find your core tribe and build your core tribe early as possible.
Y'all have such great advice. I mean, we could go on and on. This is getting deep. However, I got the little 2-minute warning while you were speaking. So I don't want to definitely overstep the next group of people that are coming on. But first of all, you all rock. You all are absolutely amazing. I'm a fan, so you will see some new following coming on just because I love to see entrepreneurs growing and sharing. And thank you for your willingness to share honestly what makes your brands successful. We here at Walker's Legacy and NRF Foundation couldn't do it without you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Paula. The power of passion is such a great call out, and something that I think is the root cause, not only for those entrepreneurs, but the entrepreneurs, that have been on this event all day. And with that, knowing the power of market data and protecting your passion product to elevate it to that next level. Such great advice.